The Cube Nuroad Pro is an extremely good value bike, and I've just ridden it for what felt like a very long time through India. And a bit of bagless riding here in sunny Los Angeles. I bought this bike from a local shop in Newcastle for £940. It was discounted from the RRP of £1,249. It's a 2024 model, hence the discount. Aluminium frame, size extra small, full carbon fork, labelled as a gravel bike with tyre clearance up to 45mm. It was spec'd with 10-speed 2x Shimano GRX RX400, a mechanical drivetrain paired with Tiagra shifters. It has TRP Spire disc brake calipers and a set of Cube's own wheels laced to aluminium Alex rims. So specs out the way, what was the good, the bad, and the ugly? First up, the group set was great, despite being mix and matched parts. The Tiagra and GRX mix worked flawlessly. Granted, I don't think the Tiagra levers are as nicely shaped as the GRX ones, they're a little bit older and the ergonomics aren't as good, but clearly it's an effort to get the price of the total bike lower, and I think it's a perfectly acceptable choice, and it means they can run cabled disc brake calipers. Shifting was buttery smooth. The bike actually came spec'd with Jaguar cables, which are a little bit more expensive, and cable quality is often overlooked. A good set of cables can really dramatically change how the bike shifts and how your brakes feel as well. 10 speed on the back, absolutely fine. The jumps in between the gears weren't that bad at all, and frankly, it's a nice beefy chain that I still haven't lubed. I probably should by now.
Last night I made the mistake of killing a cockroach in my room. I came back after doing my teeth and the cockroach had been picked up by a million ants and it was being dragged away. Then I had to clean the room up.
Gravel gear ratios were excellent for climbing with a laden bike. The cassette's actually a Dior mountain bike cassette, 11-36, and the chain set, you only have one option in this GRX model, a 46-30. My total bike weight was about 30 kilograms with my camera gear and laptop and all of that stuff, and these ratios got me over the mountains perfectly. The only time I really had issues was when I got food poisoning, and my friends had to push me. But that's not the bike's fault.
It's your bum.
Would I say no to more gear range? Absolutely not. I'm lazy. I always want more gears. Mechanical gears did provide some peace of mind during the trip. Not having to charge batteries was nice, and knowing that I can fix things by the side of the road with a spare set of cables was fantastic too. Both gear cables needed a barrel adjuster twist about halfway through the trip. Really easy to do by the side of the road, and was expected because everything beds in and loses a bit of tension. The saddle the bike was spec'd with, I didn't get on with straight away, so I rode home on it, decided I didn't like it, switched it out for a Physique Vento Argo 3D printed job. This turned out to be a bit of a mistake as well. I've been trying to identify why I don't get on with these 3D printed saddles, and I think I've found out the reason. They're really grippy, so wherever you sit down on the saddle, it kind of locks you in. We were doing fairly long days on the bike in India, and I wasn't very well, and I was a bit uncomfortable. And the saddle added to this. Annoying, I sat down at the front of it and then you can't slide backwards and forwards. I'm sure some people will find them absolutely fine and really like the fact that it locks you into a position, but yeah, they're very grippy, all of these little holes, and perhaps I should just admit, these 3D printed saddles are not for me. Geometry and sizing. It's pretty relaxed. This extra small was genuinely a very short bike, which means it will be fantastic for most consumers. We chose the extra small based on availability. At Cade Media, we share bikes between each other, and Jimmy, being a little bit shorter than me at 5'7", will fit this bike perfectly. I've been experimenting with different stems to try and get the position dialed in. I've settled on a slightly negative 120mm stem, which is the setup that I'll be using for something else coming up. We often find bikes aren't made small enough for a lot of riders, particularly women. The Nuroad goes one size smaller than the version we have here, an extra small, with a 369mm reach. This is okay, but we could do with some even smaller sizes. If Pinarello can do it, you can too, Cube.
Good morning.
Mechanical disc brakes. I have a love-hate relationship with these. On one hand, it's fantastic that I know I can repair these by the side of the road with a spare cable. On the other hand, they're spongy and, how do I say this without getting sued? Weak. My ride buddy Lawrence had the same problem in Malaysia when he was running mechanical discs. They're just not very strong. Yes, with enough force, you can stop quickly, but it takes some squeezing. Add to this a very heavy bike, it's just not fun. especially on longer descents. After the trip, there seems to be very little wear in my brake pads, so perhaps it's a very hard compound, and perhaps I'd be better off with something softer. So I've ordered some replacements from a different brand to see if this will help things. One final note here, and I know I always shout about these. TRP makes a different caliper called the TRP Hyroad, HYRD. And this has a small hydraulic reservoir inside the caliper. It's still cable actuated, but they feel much, much stronger. So if you're really not happy with your brakes and you're on mechanical discs, you might want to try out the high roads instead. Wheels left a lot to be desired. Straight out of the bike shop, you could spin them and feel how rough the bearings were. This is a common thing on cheaper wheel sets, even when they're brand new, but at this price point, I would expect better. I can't see them lasting that long, especially seeing as this bike is a gravel bike and it's going to be ridden through rain and mud and nasty conditions. If this was a £400 tri-ban, I would expect that kind of wheel set to come on it. But this is over £1,000. £1,000 is a lot of money. After the India trip, the rear wheel has gone out of true very slightly. It's noticeable as you spin it, not really while you're riding. The front wheel's absolutely fine. Now, I couldn't find any information as to whether these rims were tubeless. We set them up tubeless anyway, and it lasted 10 days. Because I didn't need gravel tyres for this trip, I switched the tyres out to Pirelli's P-Race Zeros. It's a race tyre, very supple, but in 40mm, massively wide. It was nice to be able to run slightly lower pressures, and for the most part, the tubeless worked. On the last day of the trip, I put this camera, which is fairly heavy, into my rear pack, and I'm not sure if this was the reason or not, but air started escaping along with sealant out of the side of the tyre. I had to put an inner tube in. Perhaps it was simply too much weight on the back of the bike. I have a feeling with a bit more tubeless tape, it would have been okay, but this is not my recommendation. Only set up your wheels tubeless if they're actually tubeless. For what it's worth, the 2025 Nuroads all come with tubeless wheels, which is great to see. Are you sure you trust him?
Yeah.
Livability. This bike scores high. It's a normal bar, normal stem, normal seat post. It's got semi-internal cabling where the braking gear cables go inside the down tube. Keeps things fairly neat, but still easy to service. The seat post has 2 little bolts to fasten it. It didn't slip at all. And when you do take the seat post out, the little widget doesn't fall inside the frame. Full marks. The frame is through axle, which means it's an excellent starting point for upgrades. We made that silly video a while back where we took a tri-ban and put £10,000 worth of parts into it. This frame would be a better starting point for that kind of project. And you wouldn't need to spend £10,000 to make it a significantly better bike. My only real gripe in this category is I wish it had more mounts. More mounts for bottle cages, mounts on the forks, and rack mounts. It would just make it a much more versatile bike, particularly as these kind of bikes are often used for touring and bike packing. Some of the competition at this price point, like the Trek Checkpoint, do have mounts.
Thanks.
I'm not grumpy, I just don't know what the is that? What is that?
Value for money. The spec you get for the money across all the Nuroads is really good. And I hope this trip is proof that you don't need to spend thousands of pounds to have a fantastic time. My ride partners had a variety of bikes, from rim brake Pinarellos from a few years ago.
How's your Pinarello?
To limited edition carbon gravel bikes from Trek. And once you've packed loads of bags on your bikes, they're all pretty much the same. You don't notice a difference. Looking at other bikes in the market, it's simply spec'd better than the other big brands. The $1,300 Specialized Diverge, you're getting 8-speed Claris. The $1,325 Cannondale Topstone runs Microshift Advent. The $1,300 Scott Speedster, you're back to Claris again. And the $1,299 Trek Checkpoint, you get Sora 9-speed. Yeah, there'll be some variations in the frame set, but they're all aluminium with a carbon fork. As I mentioned at the start of this video, the version I have here is the 2024 model. There isn't a direct successor in the 2025 range. However, they now offer a Nuroad EX for €1,399 with 12-speed GRX and hydraulic disc brakes. That's mad. I had to double check this. That's how good the spec is. To get costs down, they've gone with a cheaper cassette and crankset, but it's still bonkers. So, was this bike good for the trip? Yes. I had a fantastic time. Brakes could have been better though. Has it been fun riding around the LA switchbacks? Yes. With a set of slicks, this can be a fantastic road bike as well. I'm going to make some upgrades to this bike and keep riding it, and I'm going to be taking it somewhere quite special at the end of the month. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more.